The World of Warcraft new player experience still sucks. How do we fix it? I'm your host, Rosie B. Let's talk about that today on this episode of RoseFox VTubes. Okay, so while I was designing Path of the Curator, I realized that I had been designing or following a lot of content in World of Warcraft, about maybe 2 to 4 hours worth, and I'm not making a 2 to 4 hour long video. So I'm still gonna show my entire questline eventually, so I'm gonna have a longer video and a link to it. But I'm gonna have, this is gonna be like the abridged version. I'm gonna just give you guys the basic idea of, the questline that should be in this game for new players. So, part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because, both a couple of YouTubers, so not just me, there's sort of this growing concern in the community about, how long has Blizzard have to go on this, because us 30-year-old boomers, like, we don't know if we're gonna be playing this game forever, so Blizzard has to pull in a new audience by pulling in new players and giving those new players a really good and really cool new player experience. The part that's lacking here is that new player experience. People jump into this game and there's tons of lore, but Blizzard is like, here's the entire video game, enjoy. And new players don't know where to go.
Blizzard has made little effort to make the game more appealing for newer players who might be curious about Azeroth.
You follow a clearly marked story route through the entire expansion story, including, where appropriate, end-level content and zones, and then imagine that your leveling experience finishes with an Exile's Reach-style mini-instance recreation of the final boss fight from that expansion. I call this idea the Path of the Curator.
It's like, hey, how do we start understanding the lore of this game? There really needs to be a path in this game, something that basically handholds the players around in different expansions so that they can experience the lore and understand what is going on here. Taliesin and Evertail has made a video about this previously called Path of the Curator. And I set out on a small journey myself to see. I was like, okay, you know what, that's not a bad idea. In order for a new player to understand all the lore in World of Warcraft, maybe not all the lore, but enough to understand a bit of World of Warcraft's lore and sort of its present, like what has gone on in like the previous expansions. So what I came up with is, if the Path of the Curator was designed, we would get something that would look sort of like this. And we would get this Path of the Curator questline, both tailored a bit to Horde and Alliance side, depending on your factions. There's a lot of crossover with this, but if you really want to get to know the leader of each faction, I think the beginning of the Path of the Curator does have to be different for Horde and Alliance, but they come together in BFA. So what I'd be looking at in Path of the Curator for the Horde, we'd be going over Wrath of the Lich King following Sylvanas' storyline. So basically, right after Exile's Reach, sent to High Lord Sarfang, and you'd ask if would you like to play Path of the Curator and be introduced to the full lore of the game, and you can choose to accept or deny this quest, because this is all, forcing the player to do one thing or another. I completely agree is a bad thing. However, if you play through this questline, you can still choose to do dungeon runs and Just dungeon grind all the way up to, level 60 if you want to, and enter Dragonflight or the most recent expansion. Or you can choose this quest line, which is a supercharged quest line, which gives you tons of XP, tons of monetary rewards, and also gives you, gear and a couple of cool transmogs. So, in order for this quest line to be something that players actually want to do, it has to have more XP, more monetary rewards, and better transmogs than any other traditional leveling system. As far as the monetary rewards, you should get like 10,000 gold so that you can get flying on your first character, because flying is pretty expensive. I realized once I started doing this that, I thought this was going to be like a short quest line, but with all the WoW cinematics that I think World of Warcraft should have in this, I think I have about an hour of cinematics that I think new players should watch in order to get caught up to the lore that World of Warcraft has. And, basically I have the quest line would take you through Wrath of the Lich King, following Sylvanas and her story, Battle for Azeroth, and Battle for Azeroth like an abridged version, and like Shadowlands unabridged version. World of Warcraft has some really good content, and even though the basic leveling system and dungeon grinding, it's not bad, let me just compare two things. Let's just compare what you would get, let's just compare a quest in style compared to, what could this be?
Stand as one for the Alliance!
Damn, one has some really awesome cinematics that you never get to see in the game, and then the other one you never get that if you're solo playing through the game. These cinematics should be in the game, and this storyline should be available for the players to play. Let me show you guys how awesome actually playing that cinematic looked or felt, because when I played this, when you start off as the Horde, I'm only starting off this video as the Horde. It's hard to cover two sides of the same story in this one, so I'm only focusing on the Horde for now. But when you actually play through that initial BFA cinematic and scenario, it is awesome. And I think it is a great place for a new player to be able to start off with, because for the Horde, you get this warmongering, and you start off with Sylvanas burning down the tree.
You can kill us, but you cannot kill hope. Can't I?
And, burning down her own home, and, murdering the Lich King, and, the Horde's doing, all this, crazy stuff, and then you know, in Shadowlands, you know, both sides are like, all right, Sylvanas has gone too far. We have to take her down, and you get introduced to like the jailer. So like this quest line would take you up and through those and show you the cinematics and, you know, hit. And you get to play through the appropriate bosses and boss cinematics. And I think a new player really needs to be able to play through this content and see these videos and cinematics in order to understand what's going on and like, hey, this just happened in the game and now this is where we are at. Like, this is such a necessary storyline for new players to get into so they can understand what has sort of gone on in the lore, and what has shaped this world, and basically the recent events that the game is basically just happened up into Dragonflight. You know, this system could be a really good system for new players, not just for understanding the story, but like there are some truly epic moments in Blizzard, and if we draw this out like in an actual storyline that makes sense, like if you play these story beats in order, it doesn't become it's not just, you know, run here and do this, run here and collect these 8 boar meats. It turns into what World of Warcraft should be, an epic fantasy video game. And that's what this does. That's what Path of the Curator does. It turns this, you know, go here and kill 8 boars. Okay, now go here and kill this guy. And it's like, why you don't understand, you know, why. You just do what the game tells you to do, and you're like, alright.
The Horde is nothing! You are all nothing!
I guess that's the game. You just kill these bosses and these guys, and just like this game needs something like Final Fantasy. This game needs a main story quest that basically wraps up like entire expansions in like small bite-sized pieces, something that you could play through in like maybe an hour. Because I realized when I was shooting this, there's a lot of cinematics that players should see, that new players need to see, and if you play through it, like I played through the major story beats of Sylvanas' playthrough, starting off at like the Lich King. I killed Kel'Thuzad, took down Arthas, and then basically went straight into like BFA. Like you go back to Sarfang, and he tells you to prepare for this coming battle. Basically, you burn down the tree, and you see how like basically psychotic Sylvanas is becoming, and then you do the battle for Lordaeron quest, and you really get to see like this bitch is unhinged there. And some of the characters in the game, like Bane disagrees with what she does, Sarfang disagrees with what she does, and this is all fantastic, you know, storyline. And when you put it all together, up until the point where Sylvanas, like up until Shadowlands, where Sylvanas just straight up duels and murders Sarfangs, and then, you know, yeets off to, you know, the Frozen Throne to rip a hole in it, and then, you know, following all of those paths until, you know, Sylvanas is brought to justice, like showing a player all that stuff, it's really cool. And I played through it myself, and I literally cried when Sarfang died. Like, it was like putting those story beats together and watching, you know, these cinematics and these, you know, major gameplay events happen. You know, they're all spread out and they're in the lore, and if you find it, it's like, oh, it's cool. But if you put them all together, you know, it takes this grindy, you know, this grindy video game where you're just after levels and the next ability, and it turns it from just an online MMO to an epic online fantasy. And all this is possible. All of this is very possible if Blizzard introduces an idea like this, an idea like Path of the Curator, an idea like a main story questline from Final Fantasy. And I think after players played Final Fantasy, they realized that that these story beats, this MSQ, it's already in World of Warcraft. Taliesin mentions that this story is already here, and I completely agree with him. I completely agree with Taliesin. This story is already here. All we have to do is put them together. So Blizzard already has these assets. They already have these tools. All they would have to do is basically create a little bit of quest text, create some rewards, and give some people a bit of loot. Which I think, like, the loot that you can give people is already there. Do the same loot as, like, dungeon loot rewards. The storyline is already there. All you have to do is make a quick quest. It's like, hey, this leader requests your assistance with this, and all it would do is just tie all these things together in a way that makes sense. And they would be, you wouldn't play through the entire expansion because that would take, days to be able to play through all of these, and you'd already be at max level, and then you would just skip past it. But by bringing all these things together, you get to see the entirety of it, and it really becomes, it really goes from this, online MMO where you're just killing 8 boars to an online epic fantasy MMO. And the difference between the two is staggering, because, when I started putting these together, I was like, holy frick, this is awesome. And there is a lot of really cool story in World of Warcraft, but Blizzard doesn't showcase it. They have all these awesome assets and they're not using them. Blizzard has this great story, but they're not using it. Why? Why aren't they using these amazing story beats, tying them together and making an amazing story and an awesome leveling experience for new players? I think something like this is absolutely necessary to be able to bring in new players. Anyway, I've said that 100 times, but I digress. That's about all I got for today. Thanks for sticking around and watching my video. If you'd consider supporting the channel, I do have donations links, and please like and subscribe to the video if you haven't found this helpful. And I am going to link my entire idea of what Path of the Curator should be down the link in the description. This is going to be the story that I think new players should play through. I was a little bit over ambitious with it. I didn't think this was going to take me I didn't think the actual finished product was going to be hours and hours of questing, but it is. So I'm gonna link that in this video, and hopefully I'm gonna put together both of these videos and make links for that so that you can see it. So check out that next video if you want to see what I think what the Path of the Curator should look like in its entirety. I have those links in here, and that's all I got. Enjoy the internet. Enjoy your internet today. Enjoy your day today, the internet. Enjoy your day today. Peace.